1990, the legislature is still sitting, and we'll be back again next week. The House sat until 1:15 this morning, trying to get business done. After question period today, the House will be going to third reading of private bills. There are 7 at that stage. Then Committee of the Whole for a while with the Bill 26 with the Utility Companies Income Tax Rebates Amendment, Bill 49, the Ambulance Services Act. Then they will move on to third reading of Bill 31, Livestock Industry Diversification Act. At the moment, there's one bill at second reading which will stay there until the fall at the very earliest. There are 34 bills awaiting royal assent. Have a good weekend. Let us pray. O Lord, grant us a daily awareness of the precious gift of life which you have given us. As members of this legislative assembly, we dedicate our lives anew to the service of our province and our country. Amen.
Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions.
Member for Edmonton Calder.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of my colleague from Edmonton Centre, I would like to present a petition signed by 57 Albertans. These Albertans recognize that the provincial government expenditure on home care services is inadequate and that the government regulations governing home care must be broadened. Thank you.
Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions. Introduction of bills. Tabling returns and reports.
Minister of Family and Social Services.
Speaker, I'm pleased to be able to table the annual report of the Department of Family and Social Services for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 1989.
Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to table a report called A View to the Future, which incorporates recommendations on the proposed Alberta Family Life Drug Abuse Foundation, which was prepared by the Alberta Health Policy Advisory Committee, chaired by the member for Lloydminster. Copies will be distributed to all members. As well, Mr. Speaker, I am tabling a response to question number 189.
Thank you.
Introduction of special guests. Member for Edmonton Highlands.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to introduce on behalf of my colleague, the member for Edmonton Centre, 12 visitors from the Alberta Vocational Centre who are studying English as a second language. They're in the public gallery, accompanied by teacher Joanne Abramick,
and I'd ask them to rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister responsible for the Human Rights Commission.
Mr. Speaker, an Alberta Human Rights Commission Board of Inquiry has recently ruled that the use of gender by insurance companies in setting car insurance rates is discriminatory and has ordered an immediate stop to this practice. In other words, Mr. Speaker, insurance companies' practice of setting different rates for men and women, especially for young male drivers, is discriminatory and unfair. However, Mr. Speaker, the government's Automobile Insurance Board, under the Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs, has thrown a wrench into the works by appealing that decision. Mr. Speaker, in the meantime, Albertans' rights under the Individual Rights Protection Act are being denied.
My question to the minister is, why is the minister allowing a government body to deny Albertans right to be afforded equal treatment regardless of their gender?
Mr. Speaker, the fact of the matter is that the appeal was first initiated by one of the two parties that were before the Board of Inquiry, and that is the insurance company.
Cooperators Insurance Company, and that appeal is ongoing. As I understand the Automobile Insurance Board's position, they are appearing before the courts suggesting that they were denied natural justice and the right to appear at a critical point in the hearings, and that would be their claim will be determined by a judge of the Court of Appeal. If the process was wrong, of course, the judge will rule so, but in any event, at all times, anyone withstanding has the opportunity to pursue the full process and full steps in natural justice, and I see nothing incorrect or improper in that. Mr. Speaker, natural justice. We should be worried. This minister's in charge of the Human Rights Commission. She should be worried about natural justice for the people that are being discriminated against. Now, Mr. Speaker, this has been going on not just recently. This government's been protecting the insurance industry for 11 years now. The Commission ruled on this point in 1979. Since then, the government has, first of all, refused to enforce it. Secondly, exempted the insurance industry from complying with the Act.
And then even went so far as to create a defense for discrimination. Now, my question to the minister is this. Will the minister be honest with Albertans and admit that the government is putting the insurance industry's
profits ahead of Alberta's rights? Mr. Speaker, it continues to amaze me that the leader of the official opposition and others in this House are more than happy to dispense with some of the true protections that we have in a democracy. And one of them is that these matters may be pursued with the full rule of law to ensure that all people
have a right to hearing, that all people have a right to put their case before an independent quasi-judicial body, that all parties have a right to pursue appeals, and that process is underway. Once again, we see the NDs being very
loose in their appreciation of the due process of law, which I suppose, given their ideology, shouldn't surprise me.
But does.
Mr. Speaker, this minister is in charge of the Human Rights Commission. This is not the NDs, and I quote, this is what they said.
This evidence given by the industry representatives at the Board of Inquiry shows that the present insurance rates were developed in an effort to increase profits, not out of a sense of social responsibility or fairness. That is very good saying, Mr. Speaker, not the New Democrats. And I want to ask the minister this question. Will the minister in charge of the Human Rights Commission do her job and stand up for Albertans and say clearly that she is now
going to get rid of discrimination by gender? Will she now take that opportunity to do it? This could go on too long.
The lack of understanding is also amazing, Mr. Speaker. In these cases, we appoint a Board of Inquiry, an independent quasi-judicial board, and that board has made a decision.
But that board's decision is also subject to appeal by the parties through the court system and right up to the Supreme Court of Canada, for that matter, if the parties so desire to go that way. The Human Rights Commission is one party before the Board of Inquiry. The Board of Inquiry is not the Human Rights Commission. The Human Rights Commission did put the case in front of the Board of Inquiry on behalf of the complainant, who was a young male driver, and they advocated that side and in fact the Board of Inquiry agreed with the Human Rights Commission. Now there is an appeal, and now due process of law will continue, and now other judicial tribunals will render a decision. I am not inclined to interfere with the justice system of this province, nor will I be
chivied into it by, again, what I say, someone who is in fact trying to bring the entire judicial apparatus in this province into disrepute, even by advocating that we should ignore it.
Yeah, 11 years, another 15 years. It's okay to practice discrimination in Alberta, isn't it? Yeah, some
That's what
minister,
they
Mr.
say.
Speaker. My question is to who's ever the acting premier. Mr. Speaker, I say that not facetiously because I'm not sure, Mr. Speaker, but it's either Boomer or Dick or whoever, Mr. Speaker. But anyhow, the recent report from the Alberta Environment containing a summary of comments from some 4,000 Albertans left absolutely no doubt that there is strong opposition to the development of more pulp mills in Alberta's north. For months now, Mr. Speaker, we have been pressing the Minister of Environment
to guarantee Albertans that the revised LPAC proposal involving new untested technology will be subject to a full public review. Mr. Speaker, the longer the government dithers over what sort of review it will require, the more obvious it seems that the government has absolutely no intention of announcing this decision on the LPAC proposal as long as this House is in session. And my question then is to the acting Premier. Will the minister give us his firm commitment
to announce that the LPAC decision, they will announce the decision on the LPAC decision while we are sitting in this assembly?
Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker, the member from Norwood knows full well that it's difficult for us to align decisions of government with the timing of this legislature.
This government has worked on the principle that wherever possible, major announcements, major decisions are made in the
full hearing of the Legislative Assembly so that all members of the Assembly, together with all Albertans, have an opportunity to evaluate, and I think on a reasonable basis ask questions about the decision. But it's impossible for the government to give a commitment that we will make
all decisions when the legislature is on. In the case of ALPAC, the Minister of Environment has already indicated he's carefully reviewing the process, and he will be making some announcements in due course. Other than that, we can give no further commitments, Mr. Speaker.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the minister is well aware that you control when this assembly sits and you control when you bring in these decisions.
That's a cop-out, frankly. It's an absolute cop-out, Mr. Speaker. Suggests what they're going to do is sneak it in the back door and think that people will be over their summer barbecue and forgetting about it, Mr. Speaker.
But, Mr. Speaker, I'll ask you Premier Cardinal questions later, if I may, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question to the minister then is, can the minister tell us
whether his reluctance to announce his decision on a public review means also that the Yakupori report will be released
after the session is over too? Mr. Speaker, let's put this back in the...
Truth in advertising might be the slogan here, Mr. Speaker.
Because, in fact, we need to make sure that at least the balance of the truth is represented
when the questions are given. And I think the Minister of Environment here, he would say that, in fact, there has been a full public hearing already underway with respect to this process.
Mr. Speaker, one which has been exhaustive, which has been time-consuming, where a full range of interveners have an opportunity to present their arguments. It's been assessed by a full range of individuals, including a new report which is going to assess the
scientific recommendations by the, excuse my Finnish, Yakupori consulting group. That report is also being waited for, Mr. Speaker, so we can evaluate whether or not the
scientific process is appropriate. And as well, the government is in the process itself of responding to its own outstanding issues which have arisen from the review. And at the same time,
there has to be consultation with the federal government as to how the environmental questions are going to be handled. So let's be absolutely clear on two things, Mr. Speaker. First of all, there has been a very wide public hearing process. An immense amount of time and information has been exchanged among interested parties as to how this process will unfold. And the government will always, Mr. Speaker, ensure that environment is a very, very important objective to us in this case, ensure that it's carefully handled and will not respond in a knee-jerk reaction like the member from Norwood, but will have a carefully balanced response.
Thank you. Thank you. Final.
Mr. Speaker, he can almost talk as foolishly on this issue as he does on his budget, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would remind the minister that this is a brand new technology, that the public hearings were held on a different process.
That's
and I would also remind the minister that when they commissioned the Finnish firm to review the review of the original ALPAC decision, it was promised that it would be 40 days. It's now 84 days. Mr. Minister. And my question is to the Minister. Why doesn't the government just admit that they are stalling for the simple reason that they want to minimize the potential for tough scrutiny of the Aquapora report and the decision on the new untested LPAC proposal? It's just stalling. That's what...
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm not much of an expert on this technology, I can assure you of that. But I do know that the government is considering the following, that in fact, the one item with respect to new technology has been discussed with a variety of interested people, including the proponents themselves, and their proposal, I think, will be a mitigation against the recommendations of the task force, which suggested that there may well be some contaminants in the outflow, and that mitigation will be examined, and the technology will be looked at, Mr. Speaker, and if there is any questions about that process, I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, that the government, as it has in the past, will make sure that full information is exchanged on this issue.
Westlock Sturgeon. Westlock Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question today is to the Minister of Agriculture. Mr. Speaker, for a tale of outright chicanery, vindictiveness, and outright persecution, it is hard to beat. It is hard to beat that. I'm getting a little more barking from the tame elk on my right again. But rutting season does funny things to people. It is hard to... What I'd like to know, Mr. Speaker, and with further emphasis, in the Alberta dairy pools, over the last few years, the Alberta dairy pools, acting in conjunction with the Alberta Milk Board and the Minister as their hatchet man, has managed to try to keep Holgerson's an independent, free, competitive dairy from marketing plastic milk in plastic milk jugs. Holgerson's been at it since the 80s, and since this minister's been in charge of his department, Mr. Speaker, since 1989, he has said he would allow the jugs. A few months later, he said, no, you had to think about it. Then thirdly, he said, no, he referred it to the Public Utilities Board, who tried to get him to charge extra for milk jugs. Then he referred it to a tasting pattern. Then, now...
Okay, honourable member, and honourable member. That's enough thens and refers. Let's refer to the question, please.
We're all in a hurry to get to see the Queen. Mr. Speaker, then, to the Minister, what possible reason can he give in a free enterprise government on this long tail of persecution to stop a local dairy, from marketing its products in plastic jugs?
Mr. Speaker, for the honourable member for Westlock Sturgeon to suggest that this government has been harassing or participating in discriminating against Holgerson dairies is utter nonsense. I think the record will show, if you check public accounts, that Holgerson dairies received significant support for their project under the Agricultural Processing Marketing Agreement. And there would be no intent to put provincial grant dollars into a function and then turn around, or a facility and then turn around and frustrate it. The thing that the honourable member fails to understand, regardless of how many times I have explained it to him, is that although this is a free enterprise government, there is not much resemblance between the dairy industry in Canada, or in Alberta for that matter, and free enterprise. The dairy industry is a supply-managed, highly regulated industry where prices are set, the type of containers are established under regulation, etc., etc. Holgerson Dairies knew very well the playing field that existed in the dairy processing industry when they went into it, and that playing field has not changed. Holgerson's is doing some significant lobbying to get a certain change in the playing field, which affects many other parties. There has been no action taken by this government since the last meeting with all of the processors, all 6 processors of fluid milk in this province, following that meeting, where certain studies were requested. Those studies are still underway. They probably won't be completed until about September of this year. And all we're seeing right now is another media blitz, which the honourable member from Westlock Sturgeon seems to like to jump on right away because he's got a particular interest in jugs.
Mr. Speaker, I think the minister has to admit that what we have here is big companies in conjunction with a minister that is easily led by the nose or any other part to do their beckoning, because that leads to the second supplemental, and may I refer to the Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs. The Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs, who is in charge of seeing equity in the marketplace and that the consumers have a right, can he equate in any possible way the forbidding of plastic milk jugs, which take 65% of the American market, trying to shut them out in Alberta because one man has a vindictive crusade against the dairy here?
Mr. Speaker, the Department of Consumer and Corporate Affairs is leaving all matters related to jugs in the hands of the Honorable Minister of Agriculture.
Draw ears on it, and you know what it is, eh? Mr. Speaker, then back to the minister in charge of jugs. I would like to ask, in view of the fact that Halverson and the small independent dairies here are supplied by Palm because the pools refuse to do it, what is this minister doing to make sure that the pools will supply the small independent producers in this province when he lets them go under, when he lets Palm dairies go under to the pool?
Mr. Speaker, I'll just correct one misconception the honourable member is leaving with the House. The last time I checked, the Alberta Dairy Control Board is in charge of milk allocations in this province and direct which producers ship their milk to which plants.
Calgary Bowl. Calgary Bowl followed by Edmonton Calder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the provincial treasurer. Mr. Treasurer, one of my constituents has a small bus company which has contracted with local school boards to transport their students. As a small company, he has found that the new 5-cent tax increase on propane has created a hardship for his small business. Is there a chance that this tax could be exempted for school bus companies?
Mr. Speaker, I think the question was, would the government consider exempting school buses from the propane tax? Generally speaking, Mr. Speaker, the answer to that is no. I should recount the government's policy with respect to propane tax, which was introduced for the first time this past budget, in that consumers of propane have not been paying the normal amount of tax on propane for car gas or transportation in particular. And you'll recall that in '87 we did impose a tax on fuel for cars for natural kinds of gas, except methanes and natural gas. But over that period, propane was exempted from any provincial tax on the consumption of that gasoline. I should say that the federal government does not impose an excise tax on propane, and that our tax is in fact below the tax assessed on other kinds of fuel for transportation. The point is, we were attempting to encourage the retrofit of cars and other kinds of vehicles to propane, and over that 3.5 to 4 year period, we think that there's been quite a considerable benefit flowing through to those people using propane, and I think it would be inappropriate in the context of an otherwise fair and even-handed policy of distributing the tax across all users of gas and propane, that we would not be able to exempt these users for school bus purposes.
Thank you. Honourable Provincial Treasurer, after the refit program, encouragement was given to the companies to convert to propane for economic and also for environmental reasons. Under these incentives and encouragements, because of the environmental concerns that exist and also for economic reasons, many of these people feel that the tax on school bus fuel is unjustified, especially as they were partway through their contract year with school boards. Mr. Minister, why should this tax be placed on the school bus fuel when the operators have responded to the environmental concerns as good corporate citizens? Thank you.
Well, you make a very important point. The member from Calgary Bode certainly carries a message which has been expressed to us by many of my colleagues here in government. Remember, though, that as you point out, there was the opportunity to retrofit these vehicles, and in fact, in some cases, that was paid for by the federal government. And we have now provided a 4-year period for them to consider that transfer. And again, I stress that our tax on propane is far below that imposed on other kinds of fuel usage in this province, and we're all very concerned about the environmental impact, and so therefore there is a certain deterrent. But remember as well that the corporations who operate and provide school bus service, in fact, are taxable, and therefore an increase here could be in part offset against the tax otherwise payable. But I do admit, as the member points out, that there can be at least a short-term additional cost to the school bus operators, in that they will probably not be able to pass on to the consumers, which presumably is the taxpayer, ultimately, the additional costs. While I'm speaking about fuel, propane taxes in other provinces, it's important to note that, in fact, other provinces essentially move to the same level of tax on propane as they do for other forms of use. Certainly in Saskatchewan, it's the same as the automobile rate, 7 cents, Mr. Speaker. In the case of Ontario, Quebec, and New Brunswick, it's ranging between 5 to 8 cents, the same rate for automobiles. In the case of Newfoundland, it's as high as 12 cents. So you can see here in Alberta, we have differentiated, providing a small benefit in that it's below the tax normally. And in fact, it's still the lowest, one of the lowest taxes on propane in Canada. And we have deferred the decision to impose it since the first implementation in 1987, giving an extra relief to the propane user.
Happy birthday, Edmonton Calder.
29 years old. 29.
This is about age. Just for...
Happy birthday, Ernie. Mr. Speaker, Alberta has no training requirements for daycare workers, and Albertans are pleased to see in the white paper that the province is finally moving in the direction of implementing some standards. However, these standards were weak, and now we hear that the Minister of Family and Social Services, under pressure from many of the for-profit daycare centers, is considering backing off on his proposals and making them even weaker. So my question is to the Minister of Family and Social Services. In light of the fact that quality care for the children of this province is much more important than lining the pockets of for-profit daycare operators, will this minister confirm that this government will not back down on training standards?
Mr. Speaker, a highly hypothetical question, but it is the member's birthday, and I want to be charitable, Mr. Speaker, and so I do want to assure the member that we intend to continue. We do intend to continue, Mr. Speaker, with implementing training standards, training requirements, and I'm sure that once the member sees the final report, that I'm sure she'll want to endorse the recommendations that we'll be bringing forward.
Well, Mr. Speaker, my question was, will the minister assure this Albertans and parents that have their children in daycares that he will not back down on the training standards that now appear in his white paper, even though they are weak? Will he make that assurance to Albertans?
Well, Mr. Speaker, for a moment there I thought the member opposite was endorsing the standards that we have in the white paper. I think that the standards there, Mr. Speaker, are a reasonable approach. I've had a very positive feedback from Albertans and daycare operators and parents as a whole as it relates to the proposed changes. And I would want to assure the member that we do, again, intend to bring forward the standards that are in the white paper. We're looking at perhaps some moderate changes, but for the most part, Mr. Speaker, the standards stand.
Edmonton Goldbar.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to have today the Minister of Health's announcement regarding increased hospital funding to cover contract settlements. Hopefully that will ease a critical situation. But despite that, we continue to have disturbing examples that indicate our health system is anything but healthy. Mr. Speaker, never a day goes by that we don't have a tragic story related to bed closures, delays for elective and even critical surgery. Waiting lists have shaken Alberta's confidence in the system, and more correctly, have shaken the confidence in the government's management ability. Mr. Speaker, this week our office received another glaring and rather distressing example of the community's criticism with the quality of our health care. My questions are to the Minister of Health, Mr. Speaker. The Leduc General Hospital has just completed a community survey that asked residents about their personal experience and comments with the hospital. The results, Mr. Speaker, are shocking, to say the least, and point to what could be a very serious problem. My question is, has the Minister seen the survey results, which I'll table, Mr. Speaker, and what assistance will her department be providing to help address this critical situation?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I was pleased this morning to announce a major increase in funding to cover the extraordinary settlement that was reached between the UNA and the AHA in the hospital and nursing home sector. That will add an additional $47 million of funding into our hospital system, which brings to a total of about $225 million additional resources in the health sector over 1989-90. I think that's very much a statement of commitment of this province and this government towards health services in Alberta.
Mr. Speaker, I don't quite understand what that has to do with the crisis at the Leduc Hospital. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Minister, what steps is the Minister going to take personally to help restore area residents' confidence in their local hospital? Is the Minister prepared to meet with this board and with the local sponsors of the survey that has produced such shocking results?
Mr. Speaker, I meet with hospital boards across this province constantly, and if one of them wants to meet with me, of course, I will meet with them. The survey was taken, presumably, before the announcement this morning of an additional $47 million into the health system. In fact, I do think some of the services, and with respect, some of the issues that the honourable member raised with respect to bed closures could well have something to do with the resources in the health system. The management of the health system is one that is left to hospital boards. I support that kind of management model, and this government is supporting the health sector in many different ways, which I would be delighted to go through with the honourable member again beyond what's been done in the estimates. Certainly there are facilities around the province that are working very hard to increase awareness and support within their community, and I hope that the results of the survey will lead the board to look at solutions that they may not have considered that other boards might have with respect to the role in the community and the role of the institution for providing services for Albertans.
Overbar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister responsible for occupational health and safety, there's concern by some of my constituents who work at Petro-Canada, Mr. Speaker, that the investigation that's in process related to the fatalities and the explosion at Petro-Canada be concluded expeditiously. Uncertainty also always creates apprehension, Mr. Speaker, so I would ask the Minister, will he assure this House and my constituents that the investigation will be concluded promptly? Perhaps the Minister could offer a date for its conclusion.
Mr. Speaker, it's a timely question, and I welcome it. It's sad that the incident did happen on May the 24th, and we had some fatalities. And I've been asked by the press on several occasions if I could provide an update in respect to our investigation. And as of this morning, I did receive some information which I'd like to share with the House, that the investigation is proceeding with a team from Alberta Occupation Health and Safety and working with an officer of the Boilers Branch, Alberta Labour, to determine the cause of the accident. The investigation will also include a review of health and safety program procedures at the site. And I expect to hear the results of that investigation as soon as it's completed, and my understanding is that that'll happen in the next few weeks. I'd like to mention at this time, Mr. Speaker, that it's my understanding the company has moved dramatically in announcing a new policy requiring all workers in the refinery's production area to wear fire-resistant clothing, and I'm pleased that they've made this decision now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Minister assure this House that he will take appropriate action and lay charges if violations under the Alberta Occupational Health and Safety legislation have occurred?
No. Mr. Speaker, determining whether there's been a violation of legislation is a normal process in any investigation, and we're doing that now. And if there's findings of possible violations, then that will be reviewed with the AG's department as quickly as possible.
Stony Plain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my constituents in Stony Plain are having trouble believing in the Minister of Advanced Education's goodwill towards Westera. As with each passing week, they discover another way in which Westera's ability to serve them is being carved away. Programs appear to be in doubt. Staff were not treated fairly. The most recent example is with the Emergency Medical Technician Program at Westera, which is administered by Southern Alberta Institute of Technology. Students from the Stony Plain area are requested to attend a registration in Calgary personally instead of being permitted to pre-register at Westera. Will the minister please explain the logic of administering admission to an institution from a location 200 kilometers away and to request the people registering to be in personal attendance when they want to register for the program?
Mr. Speaker, I very much appreciate the representations made by the honourable member for Stony Plain. I'm not aware of that situation, but I'll certainly look into it today.
I'll make the minister aware in writing, as I normally do on these situations, but I would like to point out that as of July 1st, NATE is supposed to be running Westera. July 3rd, students are having to travel to Calgary to SAIT to register in Westera programs. It's clear that advanced education has not administered this transition according to the minister's directions of a smooth and logical progression from an independent institution to one that would be enhanced by association with NATE. Can the minister outline for the House the Department of Education's or the Advanced Education's plans for Westera? Is NATE going to run it? Is SAIT going to run it? Or does Advanced Education just plan to let it deteriorate and eventually close it?
Mr. Speaker, for a member who had been involved in the process for such a length of time, I'm frankly very surprised at the naivety of the honourable member. The member is well aware, February 1st, I announced the merger of the Westera Institute Technology with the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology. A transition team was put in place to see that was carried out. As I said earlier, Mr. Speaker, of 110 people involved at Westera, all but 9 have secured employment with the merger or otherwise early retirement benefits suitable to them. Surely the honourable member is not asking this minister, certainly not following arguments that were made with Bill 27 last night, to interfere with the administration of these board-governed institutions. We can't have it both ways. I've committed myself, Mr. Speaker, to see that the concerns raised by the honourable member's constituents, as was related them to me today, about registering for a program at SAIT, I will look at those today by referring those to the Board of Governors of Northern Alberta Institute of Technology, who have that responsibility through the transition team. Other than that, Mr. Speaker, it would be unfair to me as minister to encroach on the powers of the board-governed institution.
Calgary Northwest. Calgary Northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rendezvous Canada is a trade show that is an international trade show held in Canada to promote to American and offshore travel agent representatives. And it's the most important tourism trade show in the country. In May of 1991, next year, Mr. Speaker, Calgary will host this particular trade show. And there is a concern that I've expressed in the past, and I want to raise it again today. Each province is allocated a certain number of booths, and the allocation of those booths is determined by the Provincial Department of Tourism. Last year, our Department of Tourism decided that the umbrella tourism organizations, such as the Edmonton Tourism and Convention Bureau and the Calgary Convention and Visitors Bureau, were replaced by individual tour companies. My question today to the Minister for Tourism is, could the Minister please inform the House as to whether or not he is willing for next year to return a booth to these umbrella organizations so we can have representation of regions for the province rather than individual tour organizations?
Mr. Speaker, Rendezvous, like a lot of other travel markets, is when you try to pre-computerize and set up appointments between buyers and sellers. And it's very important that the parties that are in the booths have the opportunity and have a product that they can sell or are looking at buying. There is other booths where we have the groups that will be at the show but not on the buying and selling floor. And this is a decision that was made in conjunction with the industry that in order for our product to be sold in Alberta, the actual sellers had to be there, and it was important they be there.
Well, certainly, Mr. Speaker, we need to have sales, but from the conversations that I've had with these umbrella organizations, not being on the buying and selling floor, they might not as well have been there because they really didn't serve any function. So my question to the minister is, will the minister agree at least to meet with these umbrella group organizations and to hear their concerns and discuss their concerns with them directly, because I believe that this direction that the minister has chosen is the wrong direction. Will you meet with them, please?
Mr. Speaker, we meet continuously with the umbrella groups, with Thai Alta, who are doing an excellent job. There's 14 zones in the province, and we meet them at their annual convention. We meet them at their quarterly meetings with my total staff. And definitely, if they want to discuss this further, we'll be put on the agenda at the next time we meet with the umbrella groups represented by Thai Alta.
Rocky Mountain House, followed by Edmonton Avonmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When one looks at the fact that agriculture produces about $4.5 billion worth of products and that 1 in 3 people in the province of Alberta are employed in agriculture, it's easy to see why agriculture is one of the #1 priorities of this government. Of course, farming is a very risky business, and currently farmers are caught in an international trade war. But this year we have very extreme conditions in the province with drought, which has lasted now for 5 years out in the eastern part of the province, along with grasshoppers. As a matter of fact, farmers have sprayed 3 and 4 times for the insects, and in some areas wet conditions to the extent that farmers have been unable to seed their crops. To the Minister of Agriculture, what is this government doing to help alleviate the serious condition that a number of Alberta farms are getting into?
Mr. Speaker, I think it would be fair to say at this point in time we are assessing the degree of hardship that exists in various parts of the province. And the Honourable Associate Minister may wish to supplement my remarks when I sit down. We are certainly aware of the ongoing problems caused by too much moisture in the Peace River region. We are certainly aware and being reminded of the problems to the southwest, and I will be personally touring that area tomorrow. We are quite conscious of the drought or the impending drought problems along the eastern border. As I indicated at one point in time in this assembly, if I could wave a wand and distribute that water evenly, we could probably keep everyone happy.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. I recognize that the Alberta Hail and Crop have extended the seeding deadline to the 25th, which of course is now passed. I'm also concerned that in some areas certainly could be a problem, that extension instead of a help. What is the process for getting some other changes in the hail and crop insurance program that would maybe alleviate that problem?
I will defer that one, Mr. Speaker, to the Honourable Associate Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the extension of the seeding deadline was extended to early varieties of barley and Polish types of canola. And we do have that flexibility under the new Enhanced Crop Insurance Act, and the decision to do that was made considering the fact that it could cause some problems. However, limited to those varieties, we did feel that it would be an appropriate move. With respect to changes that we might be looking at in it, we will be reviewing it, and I would remind the member, as he stated, that the deadline for seating ended on June 25th. There is a 3-day reporting period after that, and we're just past that. And when those reports are in, we will certainly have a much clearer idea of the magnitude of the problem and in the inability to seed.
Edmonton Avonmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions are to the Minister responsible for human rights. Mr. Speaker, Kids of the Canadian West, an affiliate of the American Kids program, continues to experience difficulties in meeting its opening deadline due to concerns over human rights violations. Recently, a third American affiliate has been suspended by a state licensing authority due to allegations of human rights violations. Will the minister responsible for human rights meet with the chairman of the Alberta Alcohol and Drug Abuse Commission and demand that he withhold funding pending a full-scale investigations of proven and alleged human rights violations by the American Parent Agency in 3 separate states?
Mr. Speaker, I believe the situation is being very closely watched by the appropriate agencies and ministers, but certainly the points that the honourable member raises are important ones. I understand that the project in Calgary is stalled at the moment, pending further discussions and investigations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I hope that they're more than stalled until we're sure. Children are extremely vulnerable to the violation of their basic rights to food, clothing, shelter, and protection from violence and abuse. As adults, we have a responsibility to act on their behalf in order to protect them. Will the minister responsible for human rights investigate the treatment methods of the kids programs, including the possible use of unlawful confinement, food and sleep deprivation, and physical violence to break down children?
Well, Mr. Speaker, we work in concert, many ministers and cabinet work in concert on these sorts of issues, and I can assure the honourable member that the items that she is raising are being discussed.
Edmonton Whitemud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions are directed to the Minister responsible for Public Works, Supply and Services. Recently, Mr. Speaker, the Minister announced a 6% reduction in the grants in lieu of tax programs to municipalities. Yet on June the 20th, 1990, a press release was sent out in which one paragraph states, "These grants are based on the valuation of the property using the same municipal assessment manual formula that would be used if the property was subject to a tax." And this press release is dated June the 20th, 1990. My question to the Minister responsible for Public Works, Supply and Services, how does the Minister rationalize a 6% reduction if the municipal assessment formula is being used?
Well, Mr. Speaker, in order to determine what level of funding that the province would provide by this grant in lieu of tax to any particular municipality, we have to have a standard that we would have to follow. So basically what we ask the municipality to determine what their assessment level is, and in this year we'll provide them 94% of that level, and that's the basic reason for the arrangement.
Mr. Speaker, when I look at a 6% reduction, and I also look at the fact that taxes have gone up more than 5% on the average for various municipalities throughout Alberta, in other words, a negative impact of more than 11%, is the minister prepared to sit down with representatives of the two major organizations that involve municipalities, counties, and so on, and ask to get their participation that they will receive that prior notice in future years when the same situation is dealt with, so they're not caught off guard as far as budgeting aspects are concerned?
Mr. Speaker, this minister, as all ministers of the government and members of the government, meet with municipalities on an ongoing basis. There is a bit of a dilemma with respect to this matter, Mr. Speaker. It's not at all uncommon that municipal governments in Alberta would meet in January and February of a particular year to already work on their particular budgets. And at that point in time, they will set their mill rate. They may not announce that mill rate until the latter part of February into March as well. And that is a common practice throughout the province of Alberta. It's also been a historic common practice in the province of Alberta that the government of Alberta normally does not provide a budget for a particular fiscal year until March. So we have this bit of administrative dilemma that goes on. Most municipal governments have as their calendar year the calendar year, the January 1 through to December 31 time frame, whereas the government of Alberta has its fiscal year, a year beginning April 1 to the following March 31. And there always will be a bit of a dilemma here for municipal governments in attempting to set their mill rate, not knowing what might be contained or included in the provincial budget. Mr. Speaker, we recognize that, and that's one of the reasons why the Premier has set up an advisory council to be made up and chaired by the Premier, and contained in that particular council are a number of ministers of the Crown. And included in that particular advisory council are the leaders of both the Alberta Association of Municipal Districts and Counties and the Alberta Urban Municipalities Association. And this is one of the ongoing matters that we'll be dealing with. In addition to that, both myself and the Minister of Municipal Affairs have already been working on meetings to meet with the executives of both provincial associations, the AUMA and the AAMDNC.
Okay. It's been brought to the attention of the chair that we need to say happy birthday to another member, the Minister of Agriculture. Orders of the day.